Stay safe in the heat this summer. On hot days, more people have serious health issues like heat stroke, heart problem, and kidney failure. People who are pregnant, older adults, children, and outdoor workers are more at risk. Certain medications and health conditions like diabetes can make it harder to cope with heat. Check with your healthcare provider. Stay cool, drink plenty of water, and take breaks from the heat, especially if you work outdoors. A message from Public Health, Seattle, and King County.
Hello, I'm Tony Young, and every week I will be your guide to the music of the Fab Four with my show, With the Beatles. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, those four lads from Liverpool. First airings are Tuesday night from 7 to 9 p.m., with repeats on Thursdays and Saturdays from 8 to 10 a.m., right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. Tune in to catch Beatlemania.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the cabinets, from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets. Poppy.
Sergio LaCour's Love Line.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince, Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about going to do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Night Beat with Nasty Nets Rodriguez.
It's the beat of the Fox. K-Fox Night Beat, Nasty Net.
You know what? You're going to listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba, the underground surround sound start time. Paul Pincher.
Tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday evening sound sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to mid Sunday evening. Your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Love food? Here's some storage tips to keep it fresh longer. Store cut fruits and vegetables in the fridge. Place in reusable containers. Keep bread in the freezer for longer storage. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not meeting Mrs. Jones in that cafe for a chat and nothing else, I'm listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world.
All right. Hello. This is Rainier Avenue Radio, coming to you live from Seattle's Columbia City Theater. I'm Sam Harris, housing economist and co-founder of SeeKing Change, a collective examining the homeless situation in the greater Seattle and King County region. Each week, we're going to explore the root causes of homelessness, the consequences, and some strategies to combat the desperate moments that are at the root of much of the drug and criminal activities across our communities. Today, we are joined by SarahAnne Hamilton, caseworker with The More We Love. Thank you for being here today, SarahAnne. Can you hear us okay? Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Are you muted? Yes. There we go. I see your little mute button. Can we unmute her?
Okay, there you go.
There we go. Excellent. That's
There you
much
go.
easier. Yes.
Okay, good.
Not a good lip reader, so that's
No. I know you're good at many things, Sam, but reading is not one of them.
That's right. Yeah. Well, okay. So you're on the ground, right? You're dealing with this every day. You're meeting people at transit stations and everywhere they're in between.
Yeah.
So you have the possibly one of the best perspectives of anyone out there. How do we fix this? I mean,
I guess that's the age-old question right now, huh? Like everybody is asking that question, and I wish I had the straight-out answer. We're dealing with an issue that has lots of layers and lots of intersectionality, and so we have to start doing things in an intentional way, and a way that understands that not every situation is the same and everybody's story is different. But the one thing they all have in common is the trauma and the things that they're going through as far as having to deal with all all these things. So how do we show up in a different way? And I'm a survivor actually as well. So I think that for me, it's really just, I hate to say this cliche thing because I think it goes way beyond there of meeting them where they're at. It's more than just meeting them where they're at. It's meeting where they're people where they're at and then believing that they there. And so I think that that's what we're missing right now.
You froze up for a second, meeting them where they are at, and then you froze.
And moving further along with them.
The support
Yes.
afterward, right?
Yeah.
The support all the way until they're stable.
Yeah, because if we're saying, oh, we're meeting you where you're at, well, I'm meeting people in encampments. I'm meeting people and in the most trauma that they've ever been in. And so our goal shouldn't be just to meet them where they're at and stay there. It should be walking alongside them and moving along in the journey. Like I'm just a passenger. They're always driving, but I'm trying to navigate. I'm pulling resources. I'm talking to community members. I'm going there and really talking to people with lived experience and coming with new solutions and thinking outside of the box. And collaborating.
Yeah, that's pretty fantastic. It looks like we're being joined by Christine Moreland, also with The More We Love, Executive Director. She is traveling right now and may be able to pitch in and add to the conversation. Christine, you want to say hi? Introduce yourself.
Hi, Sam. Hi, SarahAnne. I'm Christine Moreland, Executive Director of The More We Love. I'm here to listen to our incredible Director of Programming and hear you, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And drive safely.
Yes.
We need it. Yeah. Okay. So there's a time commitment here. And I feel like time is one of those things that is very rarely talked about. I mean, how long does it take from that initial interaction to actually finding someone stable housing? And from two perspectives, right? There's the psychological ability for that person to turn and spin from this crisis that they're in, this fight or flight mentality, to living in a home, right? That takes a transition. And so that, obviously there's a range of how quickly people can do that. And that's why your support is so incredibly valuable. But then there's also the resource side of it, right?
Yeah.
Are there resources to put them into housing? And, how are you, let's maybe talk about your program that you're working with right now. You have a local community project where you're trying to rehouse people.
Yes.
And it is fantastic. So,
yes.
Right. So what kind of, what's the future look like? How are these individuals you're coming across that are struggling without housing? They're struggling to find bathrooms. They're struggling for food. They're struggling for water. There is nothing that is not a struggle in their life because they don't have. So how do we get them there? What are the time frames we're looking at?
Well, it's funny when we talk about time because, most organizations are open from just 9 to 5, you know what I mean? Like Monday through Friday. But unfortunately, this isn't a 9 to 5 issue. It's not a just on the weekdays issue. And as far as time range on how fast we get somebody into housing, it really depends on, to me, and I think this has become very clear over these last couple of days, is the ability of people, of other organizations collaborating. When we collaborate the right way, we can get a mother and her 2 kids in housing in 24 hours and walk away with great people around her and all that. So when we collaborate the right way, then it can happen way quicker than when people think. And organizations aren't really communicating with each other in real time, then that it makes it a little bit harder. It makes the barriers a little bit harder. The truth of the matter is we just don't have enough shelter. We don't have enough beds. And that's something that needs, to change. You can't put a mother or somebody trying to stay clean in a low barrier shelter. You know what I mean?
Whoop, you froze up for a second there. But
This is a one thing.
Sorry, you froze up for a second there. It looks like our connection isn't great, but you were saying something there where low barrier shelters. What are I think our listeners probably don't know the difference between the various types of shelters that are out there. What is a low barrier shelter, and why is it problematic for some?
Well, a low barrier shelter is somewhere where people can be involved in drugs and be high, and it's more, where they're basically meeting people where they're at. Do we need shelters like that? Absolutely, because some people aren't ready. But for the people that are ready, that don't, for me, I'm a grateful recovering addict. Right now, if I was homeless, the last place I would want to be is somewhere where a bunch of people are doing the same thing that I fight every day to stay clean. So we forget about this whole population of people. And then, when you don't have shelters that are more, for people like that, for people who are trying to stay clean, it gets them maybe back into the life, maybe back relapsing. And then the cycle just continues over and over again.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So where do you put people who are in your shoes, where they're battling a previous addiction and they're clean? Is that a medium barrier?
Yeah, that would be like a sober living, like the Oxford House style places, a program called Weld that is a great program for people in recovery, put them in communities where they're around
other people, right? Sarah, you've frozen up. SarahAnne, you've frozen up, but I'll try to complete that thought.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a delay there, but the community aspect that I keep hearing, and that community aspect seems to work best in those situations where people are clean and can see.
I don't know why I keep freezing up.
Yeah, and when they have that support, right? It doesn't seem like, well, it seems like across the board, the more support people have, the better chance they have of success.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Absolutely.
So what is success in your eyes?
That's a great.
Oh, she froze. Maybe Christine, can you take this one? SarahAnne is frozen in time. Oh dear.
Yeah, it was your question. What does success look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say success is going to be measured differently for each individual, right? Because it's determined, their success is going to be determined kind of what their underlying issues and traumas were that got them in those spaces in the first place, right? So some successes to people are completely getting out of those type of communities and creating a new one. Some successes are job stability. My perspective of success is when somebody feels loved and supported and they feel empowered to be able to move forward in their life and make their own decisions and not necessarily have to feel like there's a ceiling on them any longer. Sorry, SarahAnne, I took over while you were frozen.
Yeah, it worked out great.
She
no, you're muted again.
So that...
Oh,
you got it now? Nope, you're still muted. There you go. Now you're not.
Okay, now I'm not. I'm so sorry.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, success, like I love what Christine just said. Success can mean anything. Success could be like, I didn't get high for an hour. I didn't get high for an hour. You know what I mean? That's a win. A win is a win. And we have to celebrate all those wins. Because once you do the small wins, then it's kind of easier to go a little higher and a little higher. Like Christine always says, like, we don't want to have a ceiling. We want people to know that they can thrive any way they can. And we are going to be supporting them in that.
Well, I love the idea of incremental success that is literally infinite.
Yes.
I love that. That is one of the best parts about America, right? Is that we have this belief that our success can be infinite, and It's all incremental. Everything we do, every moment and every day. So yeah, I love that. That's
Well, and I will say in a lot of these people's lives, a lot of their ceilings have been set for them from other people, right? So oftentimes they don't even understand that they're capable of success or that they deserve success. And so I think we have to be careful about how we work with the people to get them to places to understand that they don't have to have a ceiling, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, and that probably looks different for everyone.
Mhm.
Wow. So you just have to dig in and find all of the trauma that is keeping them from their highest order, their least chaos. Yeah. So, okay. So you're going through, you're talking to all of these people, and how do you make sure that you continue the support? Are you having other groups help? Are you just following up yourselves? Is it weekly, or does it just depend on the individual?
Well, it depends on the individual, but we continue to do this work because we just show up. I mean, that it's really that simple. We show up every day. Like sometimes people, at first they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to hear what you have to say. But when people see that you can show up on a consistent basis and be someone's constant, that's what we say at The More We Love all the time. Be someone's constant. That does something to a person. That becomes like, hey, okay, I've seen her every day for the last 2 weeks. Okay, I'm gonna get a water from her today. I'm gonna listen to her today. And it might be that moment where something changes, but it's not gonna happen overnight. And we have to just keep showing up and making people realize that you can be trusted, and just not we always like to say don't over, under, what do we say? Under promise and over deliver. Like,
Yeah,
just
you nailed it.
There you go.
Yeah, I love the whole concept of trust, right? It's so many different levels. The government has to trust people that are without housing, that they are going to do what's in their best interest. And, when we're providing all of these resources, we want to keep it accountable so that we can make sure that, we're not just throwing money into drugs or, wherever that money goes. It seems like there is a lot of money in this. And so I tend to look at expenses. The expenses of stabilizing a person. You've both been doing this for a long time. Do you find a correlation between when you meet someone and where they are in their situation and how much it costs? Is there my hypothesis is that the sooner you catch someone, the less it costs. Do you find that?
I'm gonna let Christine answer this question. She's our money person.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to lead with the thought that prevention is always best, right? So if you can prevent somebody from getting evicted and end up homeless in the first place, that's going to be the most cost effective. Ultimately, if they end up on the streets, we are, in an uphill battle to determine what their needs are. And a lot of that can vary. Some of the costs can be sending somebody home to their family, i.e. what we did the other day, back to
Oh dear.
some of it, paying off warrants and fees. And so costs can stack up when a person is homeless or you're continuously meeting them out with, even like harm reduction supplies and, things like that. So prevention of homelessness is going to be your most cost effective always, in my perspective, and keeping people housed and safe because, when you're homeless, it costs a pretty penny, especially to get resources like SarahAnne was saying to work together even and be able to chip away at the needs of these people.
Yeah.
People
Now,
that we serve.
how often do you have opportunities to prevent housing loss?
More and more we're getting those calls, which I appreciate and I'm grateful for. After the moratorium was lifted for rental, for the rents during the COVID period, a lot of people are starting to face eviction. We also have a lot of single moms that are up against eviction where, maybe the dad's been lost to the drug addiction side of things. And so we are getting calls, I would say, SarahAnne could probably, say this as well, 2 or 3 calls a day just for rental assistance right now. And because we are an organization that diversifies everything that we do and leverages our resources, we are assisting quite a few with our own monetary funds, but plus accessing other resources. So it's our mission to help people prevent eviction and make sure that, if we are paying rents forward, that they've got a good plan to be able to stabilize, that there's jobs there. So we put together real strategic plans for people so that they feel guided in that space.
I love that. Now, is that something that everyone is doing? It feels like there's probably 5 really big resource providers that probably get 80% of all the funding from the homelessness side anyway, the KCRHA. Now, smaller groups. Now, do you receive any subsidies at all from the King County Regional Homeless Authority?
We do not. No, we're public-private. We have city contracts, but at this time, we don't receive funding from King County Regional Homeless Authority because the fact of the matter is we don't want the red tape and the bureaucracy of receiving funding from them at this time. I don't even believe that they would have the funding if it was something that we would ask for. I believe that they're pretty, they're pretty tapped with the programs that they're servicing right now that we're also supporting. The irony of it is we support the KCRHA programs, and certainly use some of them.
Yeah. When we got to meet with the interim CEO of the KCRHA, he made that abundantly clear that they had more contracts engaged than they had money to pay. So I think the first thing he told us was, well, we don't have any money, so don't ask. Right. Great.
It's hard when you're perpetuating the cycle. You've got to be the mammoth with all the money. I mean, how else do you keep the cycle going of homelessness?
Yeah.
Forgive me for my opinion in that slight.
No, but that's an interesting. It's always interesting to look at the systems, especially as a systems economist. I love this. So one of the things I'm always curious about with the KCRHA, their priority is people who have already lost their housing. So when you're dealing with people without housing, you can use their homeless management information system. Now, are you connected to that?
Nope. I'm going to let SarahAnne take this one. She's our data. Rock.
Right.
No, we're not. We're connected with DMIS to do our. I apologize that I felt like I was not paying attention, but I had like 3 survivors blowing up my phone at one time, and I was trying to turn it off. So I apologize for that. Our phones never stop ringing. Anyways. Can you repeat the question about DMS, where our data?
Okay. Well, so I have been talking to a lot of different caseworkers out there, and I find that most of them that I'm dealing with are not connected to HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System, where they keep all the supportive housing, and it feels very It feels like it's a gatekeeper. And I don't understand why.
Yes.
I don't understand. I mean, it feels like we as the taxpayer should have a clear picture of what is and is not available for us in our times of crisis. And I keep hearing the same conversation about, well, I called 211, excuse me. And what I was met with was, we're sorry, you're not vulnerable enough yet. Right. And so then they lose their housing and, oh, now you are. Great.
But now there's a waiting list. And now you have to be on a waiting list.
It's like a cartoon and my head just, explodes. You said earlier, Christine, that you recognized that prevention costs less. To me, just from a theoretical standpoint, that seems fairly obvious, because the longer you're in this decline, I call it the resource depletion spiral, right? You lose that first resource, that keeps you in your housing, your housing is still secure. You lose that first resource, and it undermines every other resource that keeps you in your housing. Whether it's United Way says that it's utility bills. Imagine if you stop paying your heat bill because you can't quite afford it, right?
Yeah.
Groups, community-based organizations like United Way and Solid Ground, they have their little silos, and they built these little systems where they do deal with that. Do you have access to that at all? Or is it just so overwhelmed because they're the only ones that do it that it's not really available? Yeah.
Well, we're not part of HMIS, so we don't have it as far as that. But that's where, you have to build relationships with organizations and communicate with each other and lean on each other. And that's why breaking the silos are so important, because I can't be a part of HMIS. I don't have access to that. So I have to make sure that I build relationships with other organizations and other people that are, a foot to the ground doing the same work I'm doing in order to find those resources. So it's really odd because you end up actually using those resources because you have to build these relationships and you have to meet people and you have to call and say, hey, I have this person, and hope that the next person you're talking to is in line with you and wants to help people just as much as you do. So you just have to build those relationships. And I think that's why it's so important that this is something that we're all responsible for, down to the private donors, the big, the people, the private funding, churches. Like, imagine if we all worked together and really were on the same page and we were really communicating with each other, how much more people would be helped and thriving. Like, if you saw somebody drowning, you would throw them a life jacket and say, hey, you wouldn't be like, hey, call so-and-so to see if you could get a life jacket, and then maybe they'll put you on a wait list for it.
That is the perfect example, because one of my friends and one of my board members, Jason Berman, works at the GAO, Government Accountability Offices. They kind of do the systems for our government. And he was looking into the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard decided that they would change their target to 0 drownings for all their trainings. And, there's over 300 that happen every year. And, it's an interesting thought dilemma, because you have these people are going to drown.
Yeah.
But can you prevent it? And if you're targeting 0, then your mindset is looking at, how do we get to 0? But if your target is, we should reduce it by 10%. Well, then you're looking for opportunities to make a 10% difference. And that gap, that is so fundamental when we're trying to get to 0. It's beyond 0 that you have to hit. You have to get people stable, right? You have to get people in that mindset of, before you even get an eviction notice, right?
Yeah.
There should be.
Yeah, I have somebody to call. Yeah, I have somebody. I like to say all the time, relationships got me in and relationships got me out. Like, I'm very young, and I was very young when I started to be on the streets, and I went through a lot of things. And the one thing I was always looking for, the one thing that I was always searching for, was to belong somewhere, was to be a part of something, was to have a group of people, even if even if it was toxic. Like, I had this fake sense of safety. Like, that was enough. So imagine if we flip that, you know what I mean? We give a person a place to belong. We give a person a purpose, and that makes it way easier. Like, when people start to take chances on you, or are brave enough to be like, oh, that's a good person, it makes you take chances on yourself. And that's really important.
Yeah, that is.
And as providers, as resource providers and people in this field, we should be leading by example. We should be showing people that healthy relationships are what keep us safe and keep us healed and keep us moving forward and helping the next person and the next person. We should be leading by example for that as service providers.
Well, I just love that. We have about a minute left. Any final thoughts as you are traversing the oh, did we lose Christine? We lost Christine. Oh no, there you are. No, there she is. Any final thoughts, the two of you? Maybe you can say them at the same time.
I think my final thought, well, thank you, Sam, for inviting us. We really appreciate that. And I just hope that everybody thinks of it that way, that it's our responsibility who are thriving, like, you know, to lend a hand out and be an example of how we show up for people. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like, you know, just showing up for a person in the smallest way makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's a sense of empathy that the community needs to build and expand. And then recognize that people, everybody makes mistakes, and it's just a matter of, you know, whether you had a support system to help you through it. And if people
we cannot normalize walking past people dying. Like that's what we're doing right now. We're normalizing that, and we cannot do that. Like I just said, if somebody was drowning, you would throw them a life jacket. So that's what we need to do.
Well, I love what you do. Thank you so much for all your service. And we're off until next week. Next is Seattle Here and Now. So stay tuned and stay cool this weekend. It's going to be a hot one.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sam.
Yeah, thank you.